guests into the lodge and leave the door open so others may join us. Welcome to episode 33 of Follow Me. We're your hosts, Worship Brother Wiley Forster. I'm Worship Brother Will Moore. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Thinking Outside the Box. What are we talking about tonight?
That's an interesting concept. You know that? Thinking outside the box?
Dude, I don't even know where the box is anymore.
Yeah, well, as long as we're not opening Pandora's box, we're good.
No, somebody opened it at the first of the year.
That's fact.
Somebody thought it was...
They need to put the lid back on it.
Somebody thought it was a Christmas present.
But what we're going to talk about tonight is how to keep everybody involved while we're still going through this thing we're going through. I mean...
who would have thunk it would have lasted this long?
That's right. And who would have thought at all that, you know, here we are almost 5 months in. I mean, we're not far from the 5-month plateau now. So, you know, that's a long time, and a lot of things have happened. A lot of brethren are discouraged right now. A lot of brethren are sick. You know, we got several of our close friends that have been affected by this thing going on, and you know, Will, you and I have done very good we've been very good with not really throwing it out there what we think, but at the same time, you know, it's a pretty big sickness that's going on that affects people, and it affects people of all ages, and the number one thing is people are getting discouraged right now. I mean, and I talked about it, probably we were in episode 3 or 4 when I was talking about the mental aspect of what's happening with this thing going on, and the mental effect that it's starting to have on people, especially those who have been without jobs. And, you know, your social life has really been tarnished by this thing.
Well, we got a lot of candidates that want to get into masonry. We got some that are in the middle of their degrees that can't go forward right now, at least here in Georgia, and they're getting really discouraged.
And I don't know of anyone throughout the country right now that are having degree work. I mean, this interaction stuff, it affects all bodies of masonry. You know, our York right here in Georgia, we can't do those things because we follow what the Grand Master says. And our commanderies in Georgia, our Knights Templar groups, we are under general orders from the Grand Master of the Grand Encampment, and it's his general order number 12, I believe, and we're still under it. So we haven't been able to meet face to face since March. Since February was the last commandery meeting we were able to go to, and you know, for me, I've been commander of the commandery and haven't had a meeting yet. So you know, things are really mentally starting to take its toll on our members. I know here in this state, it's got to be taking its toll on our Grand Master. Our worshipful masters are experiencing the same thing. They don't know whether to hold a meeting, not hold a meeting. They're worried about their members. And then you have the naysayers out there that are, you know, I don't know why we can't just do things like we've always done it. Well, there's more involved than just you or I.
Yeah, and we've strayed away from this as much as we could. I know we've talked about coronavirus, we've talked about masonry, and we've strayed away from our personal feelings. One, because we don't want to put out how we feel because we know everybody doesn't feel that way. But we're getting to the point where I'm really starting to see it, where guys are getting frustrated that they can't go to lodge, they can't do the things they used to, and they've got to understand that it's not about just you.
Well, and us as Masons too, we have a hard time. We just have a hard time to not being able to be on the go. I mean, it's like putting reins on a thoroughbred. You know, you can't hold him back, and yet here we are.
Yeah, because I mean, we used to travel thousands of miles in a month, and you know, we'd spend $100 or more on meals and all that kind of stuff, going out to eat and gas and all. Well, saved a ton of money.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the end of the time, I mean, your time is your most precious commodity that you have, and when you're used to having your time already allocated for things that you enjoy the most in life next to your family, you know, and you can't do it. I mean, it's hard for grown men to be given you can't do that.
putting a pin.
Yeah, and they really quelled us down. So, and this virus did it. It wasn't the Grand Master. It wasn't, any of our Masonic leaders. It's the state of the world that has caused us to be in this position. But our big thing for us tonight is to try to figure out how we're going to keep our brethren involved and our potential candidates involved.
Yeah, and one of the things, just to throw an idea out there, one of the things I thought was cool with our lodge is Monday night we usually have practice. So we had our practice. We did it a little different though. We actually invited our 2 candidates in, and we sat around and we went through the EA Catechism as a group, not just the 2 candidates, to show them that we're still human too, and we don't remember everything. They knew some of the parts better than we did because they're actually getting coached. But we did that as a round table, and then after that, we took the candidates plus some petitioners, and we all went out and ate together.
Mm.
And it was nice to just have that breakaway, that time together, and everyone that went actually felt better at the end of the evening than when they walked in the door that night.
Exactly.
And I know it's those little things, but it's something different. We do get in a regiment as Masons. We go to practice. We go to the meetings. We go to a practice. We go to a fundraiser. We go to a meeting.
Well, then we're all very regimented, and men are just in generally regimented. We like the same thing.
Yeah, and so that's why I said think outside that box. Break that box open and see what difference you can do. I know a lot of lodges are frustrated because they can't have their normal fundraisers. Well, still hold a fundraiser, but maybe do something different. If you're used to having a barbecue, hold a raffle. Have a distanced bingo night.
I want to do something different. I follow this link I get every single morning, and I get a link of motivation in an email every morning. And like Monday, I think of this week, it was about fresh thoughts. Surround yourself with people who have fresh thoughts. We get caught as Masons thinking, well, this is our tradition. This is the way we've done it. We put our blinders on. You're right. But overall, we need to think about the fresh and innovative way to be still who we are, but at the same time, be creative.
How can we be more of who we are and help more? What you had an idea earlier that I really liked. What could we do in our community to make Masons help more?
Well, there's a lot of co-ops around and food banks. There's food banks at the local church or place of worship or especially co-ops in our area here in North Georgia. We have them that they're strategically placed. Go volunteer. Call them up. Say, hey, I'd like to come volunteer. I'm sure they have COVID protocol like everyone else, but there are a lot of people who are without work and they really need your help at the food bank. Do a food drive at your lodge, and do it for one purpose, and that is to give to the local food bank so that you can reach out and be serviceable to your fellow person.
If you're in a county or in a community that you have a couple of lodges, get together as those lodges and do a food drive as a group. That way it's not just coming from Lodge A or Lodge B.
Right.
It's coming from the lodges of X county or X township or something of that nature. I think that would be really cool. And it'll do 2 things. 1, you'll feel better at the end of the day. And 2, it gets Masonry out in the public face more. And we need more good things from Masonry out in the forefront.
And brother and friends, I know that out here there are a lot of people who want to be serviceable to others. Mm-hmm. That's what built us in our craft. We talked about in our last episode things about being serviceable and who those people are, the charitable givers. And think about those folks who are chomping at the bit to want to do something for somebody. Have them bring some ideas to your lodge and say, let's throw this out here because we need to do something cumulatively, but we can still practice our social distancing. We wear our mask where appropriate. But most of all, if you have to, offer up free food thing there at your own building.
Well, another thing you could do, we know some brothers who have COVID.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of them are in the hospital. One of them was in the hospital. He's already been released to the house, so that's good. But he's got family members Call those family members up and see if they need something. They need you to go shopping for them. They need you to
Because
cook
I
a
know
meal
they're
for
on
'em.
quarantine, most of those,
Right.
you know, so, you know, you can drop it off at the door. It's like DoorDash, you
Yeah.
know.
Help those families out.
And no plug for DoorDash because we're not sponsored by them.
No. But those kind of things right there, you know, I know a lot of folks call and they make sure what they'll call for their brother. But call that wife, call that grandchild, call that mother, sister, brother, whatever, and see if someone needs a hand.
And you can still do your fundraisers as usual. You just have to be careful and remember that here in Georgia that it's it would be a drive-through only. It'd be, it won't be like you can have it your way, but you can. The fact that you could see some person, even if they're driving through, you can still keep your community relationships going. You might have to advertise a little longer or find a different avenue to advertise to get it going. But overall, you can still hold your events and still do your lodge some good and do justice for it.
You could have a yard sale at your lodge. You could set up tables all spaced apart, and everybody who's selling wear masks. Because you're going to have people from the community coming up. Keep yourself safer, but sell stuff that you want. Say, set them up along the sidewalk with some canopies over them, and just sell and take all those proceeds and put them towards a building fund, a scholarship, food. Go down to the store and buy food with it, or get some gift cards at the grocery store to hand out to a needy family. There's just so many things you can do, and we're just throwing a few ideas out there. But think like we are. Think off from what we normally do.
Yeah, we got to be.
We've seen the gun raffles. We've seen the breakfast, the pancake breakfast, the spaghetti dinners, the chicken dinners, the barbecues. Throw those off the plate for now and try to think of something different.
And understand this too. It's sometimes it's not about the amount of money you make, but the service that you're rendering. It's about the charitable side of what we're doing. Yeah, we'd like to raise money to be able to be charitable, but just remember your time and thoughtfulness. That's sometimes more important than the money.
Absolutely.
And fundraisers ain't supposed to be had to be paying your bills.
I know. But it happens.
But you know how I feel about that.
I know. And don't get on that soapbox.
I'm not going to tonight. I'm even keeled tonight because we're trying to think outside the box.
Well, and another thing you can do, because I know we like to see our brethren, and we don't get to see them enough in this day and time because of what's going on. Find a brother who's got some land out behind his house. Build your little fire pit. Go out there late in the evenings. Take you some Cokes or whatever beverage you'd like. And everybody sit around the campfire, distance, talk some masonry.
That's right. We need to be talking masonry. Guys, we need to be doing whatever we can to talk up masonry and learn masonry more. Because what a better time now to be practicing on lectures during this time. That you can't do the work. but everybody would like to sit there and hear a nice lecture of some of the degrees that we do.
When was the last time that your lodge did a degree, that you heard the charity lecture, or that you heard the Northeast Corner? There's nothing that says you can't do those during a meeting and refresh everyone. Everybody needs a refresher. If you've been in masonry a year or 50 years, there's something that's going to, if you give one of those lectures, that's going to spark something in your head that is going to make you love masonry even more, or make you think about a commitment that you took in the past that you need to refresh in yourself.
And we talked about commitment and what we need. We need to understand too that we know that what's happening right now is a temporary problem. But temporary doesn't mean that it's just a day or two or a week or two. Temporary could be for 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, 2 years. Freemasonry's been going on for over 300 years in its current form. So when you speak of temporary,
this is a blip. 5 months is a blip.
Really, come on.
Look at the Spanish influenza in 1918. You can go back and watch our epidemic episode. Mm-hmm. They dealt with that for a couple of years.
Right, and it was still, that thing was still very fluent in 2020, 2021. Then in the middle 20s, in the state of Georgia, or basically in the United States, there was the huge tuberculosis outbreak in children. We learned in one of the episodes that we Georgia Masons built a center to treat tuberculosis kids. So, think about that. Great things in Masonry came about during terrible times. We need to think outside the box what we can do to be great, and think for our members and get our members involved. I mean, the thought of being able to sit there and listen to someone give a lecture who may never have given one before. If you're a worshipful master out there, assign a task. Yeah, I mean, you have the right to close the lodge whenever you want to. Why not assign your members a task and give them a deadline to be able to present the paper or whatever?
Well, and during this time, too, there's a lot of past masters that sit in lodge. Talk to them prior and see if they want to open or close the lodge one night. That's actually I think it's an honor as a past master to be asked to open or close a lodge, as long as I'm given warning.
Right.
I don't want to come in and make myself look bad. And you should never ask a past master at the spur of the moment, because he doesn't want to look bad in front of the brethren either. So
but he's got the right of refusal.
He does, but ask a past master 2 or 3 meetings ahead and see if he would like to close, and that lets him brush up. And I'll tell you what, I've seen a lot of past masters that have done that, and they've enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah, and it reinvigorated them and wanted them to be more involved. And Will, during this time, me, you and I've talked about it quite often in our shows that, I'm the history buff, you're not, but you've learned more in these sessions than probably at any other time in your Masonic career. Now is a great time to research our Masonic history. Reach out to brethren who may have a nice library and borrow a book or two. I'm not loaning mine out. I'll loan them to you and a few select others. But research some Masonic history and bring those tidbits to your lodge meeting. The Grand Master in Georgia suggested that we have shorter meetings. He didn't say to have a meeting with no substance.
Open, take care of business, close. You're home by 8:20.
Yeah, that wasn't what he was saying. What he was saying was be careful and cautious, but enjoy yourselves at your meeting.
Right.
He gave us the window to be able to meet, and yet we're not taking advantage of that. Those of us who are meeting,
we took advantage of it at our last meeting.
Some, but I'm just purely based on my personal experience, and I think that we could be doing so much more educating right now, and making ourselves more prevalent in our lodges and in our communities as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Find you a guest speaker that will come up and talk to your lodge. Maybe you have a brother from another lodge who does a really good job at presenting something Masonic. See if they're willing to come up and present that, because it's probably going to educate the brethren in your thing. So, I mean, we've talked about several things here. What to do as a lodge to keep people involved. What to do as individuals to keep yourself involved. What to do to strengthen your own Masonic training. Try to think of those things and help your brethren think about them. And the one thing I think it'd be bad of us to forget, continue to stay in touch with your brethren.
Oh yeah, and stay in touch with your potential candidates. Your potential candidates, I've heard so many complaints and frustrating comments. Well, we're going to lose these brethren, or these potential brethren that we have, or these candidates that we have. If these brethren want to be Masons, they're going to wait.
Yeah.
The ones that may not wait, maybe those are the ones that change their focus.
But it's still on you as a lodge.
Yeah.
To keep them I hate to say entertained because they're not kids, but keep them involved and entertained so that they don't lose focus.
Right. And if you're reaching out to them now, these candidates or the petitioners that you have, and you're at least talking to them once a week or a couple of times a week, they know you care enough about them that they matter. And they're going to remember that. Whether you think that they will or not, they will remember.
Yeah. And do something to get them involved like we did at our lodge with a practice night. We turned it into a night about them and practicing their stuff because they're going to stand a degree. And then we went out to dinner. Have a family night out for the families that want to come, if they're okay to come. Have a family night at a restaurant, at someone, if they've got a huge house and can fit some people in there. As long as you guys can stay.
Yeah, and your wife allows you to have them over.
Well, yeah.
But if you can do some outdoor cooking, if you do some outdoor cooking and preparing and enjoying the food outside,
right,
is safer for you, according to what we are hearing now. It would be safer for you in the group.
Subject to change.
Yeah, subject to change by the morning. But the key is if you want to do something, gather outside. I'm not saying invite 30 people to your house. Invite 4 or 5 over. Remember, groups of 10, you want to stay below if you can. Groups of 50, you need to really practice your distancing. I wouldn't want 50 people at my house anyway. But, there may be 4 or 5 folks and couples that I might want to have over.
Yeah.
But we're not. You have to be very careful with those things, but at the same time, it's outside the box.
Yeah, we're not telling you to do that. We're
No.
just telling you it's an idea. We will do something like that. We'll have a couple of families over. We'll keep it limited, but think of those things. Maybe you have 2 or 3 over here, and then another member has 2 or 3 over, and you intermingle, and you guys can talk about things, masonry. You can talk about things like we talk on the show that can be talked about in a family setting. That don't exclude anyone. I mean, that's part of what we're doing, is trying not to exclude anyone, and we're talking specifically to the Masons tonight, but it's to give them ideas, because doing this, going to a meeting, opening, taking care of business, closing, and going, well, that wasn't any fun.
Well, I just wasted my time. And we talk about it all the time, as time being your most valuable asset. You've got to invest your time in what you're doing, and we as men, and ladies too, in today's society, is we work, and you just spend all day at your job. You don't want to go to some boring meeting and sit there for whatever time without getting some meat.
Yeah.
You need some substance in there.
Well, another question is, does your lodge need to be worked on?
Yeah.
No better time than to get 4 or 5 brethren over now and trim back some hedges, take down a tree, paint inside,
repair a sinkhole in your parking lot.
Those things, there's no better time than now to try to get that done if your lodge has the funds. If you don't, reach out to some of your lodges in the area and see if they're willing to help you, or help you with a fund drive, not a fund drive, a fund drive, to try to get that done, because our first obligation is to our brethren. So if a lodge that was in need came to us, we would see what we could do to help. Even if it wasn't monetarily, we could pitch in a hand, we'd do it.
There again, there's your time. It's coming in. It's your most valuable asset.
Yep.
So in general, and to wrap this up before we get to our quotes, what Worst Brother Will and I are trying to tell everybody is, find some way to get yourself and your lodge members and your potential candidates, your current candidates, involved in something.
Get your butt out of the chair and go do something.
Yeah, get up, man. Being confined to the house is not good for anybody. It's not good for your mental psyche. Brethren, it brings up a huge point for me personally. And you and I, of course, we talk about all things all the time. But brethren, ladies, friends, if you are suffering in any way mentally, please reach out and talk to someone. I don't have much to offer, but I always offer an ear, and I will always listen.
Absolutely.
Your life means more to me than anything else. There's no amount of money can replace a human life. So if you're in that position, don't be too prideful to not reach out.
Well, and at the top of our video tonight, and the bottom of our last 2 videos, we have our email address, Twitter, Facebook, all those links scrolling on the screen. I haven't had anyone reach out to me for help. Well, I haven't had anybody reach out to me for mental help yet. Right. I actually had a man from Kenya reach out to Masonic Follow Me on our Facebook through Messenger. He would like to be a Mason, but he doesn't know any Masons over there in Kenya. So I'm going to reach out to some people and see who I can eventually find. I'll find someone who knows some folks in Kenya to reach out to this man, this young man who wants to become a Mason.
Right.
To me, that's cool. And that one thing, if we can get that man into Masonry, I'm done. This show has done what we set it up to do. If we reached one person. So feel free, and it will always be anonymous. If you reach out to Wiley and I via any social media link, any email link, we will do our best to help you or find you help, and that will stay completely anonymous.
We believe in doing things in confidence. There are certain obligations we take very seriously. So just remember that, because I know this thing's dragging on 5 months, and now the mental aspect of that hit. I know what it's done to affect me personally, and it's really taken a lot of wind out of my sails. It really dimmed my light for a little while. It has you. We see a lot of petty things that we don't really care for, and the world as a whole is not very nice right now.
The world needs a lot of light, and remember, as Masons, we have to be that light.
Yep, and they just need some love, bro. They need some love. So we'll go on with our quotes and close this thing out for tonight. So we'll start with only those who dare to fail greatly can ever achieve greatly. That's by Robert Kennedy.
Yeah, unless you're willing to take that leap, you never know what's at the bottom.
And you got to have that leap of faith. You got to have it.
Show me someone who has done something worthwhile, and I will show you someone who has overcome adversity. Lou Holtz.
Lou Holtz, if you ever get to see that human being in a motivational speaking setting, it will change your life.
Really?
It will change your life. And the poor fellow talks with a lisp, and you really can't make it out, but you know where he's coming from. And he tells some of the greatest stories about himself, and a man who can joke about himself has a great character.
Sure.
Things turn out the best for the people who make the best of the way things turn out.
Yeah.
John Wooden, one of the greatest basketball coaches, one of the greatest inspirational people. If you ever get a chance to see the Wooden Pyramid, the John Wooden Pyramid on leadership, check it out. It's a cool thing.
Well, that one reminds me of the don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said.
The greatest glory in living lies not in never failing, but in rising every time we fail. Nelson Mandela.
Another great person. One who went to prison for what he believed in. Mm-hmm. So, these quotes that we got tonight, where it's about thinking outside the box. It's about simplifying yourself. Simplify what you need. Don't sweat the small stuff.
Reach out for something that you haven't grasped onto before.
Have a fresh thought. Mm-hmm. So, as usual, we always appreciate all of our people that tune in. Please continue to share our links, share our, hit the notification button, hit the like, subscribe on all your social media platforms. We try to put these things out as quickly and possibly as we can. But there again, we're gainfully employed, thank God. And of course, we try to service our lodges that we visit. We're always so appreciative of every person who takes the time to look at what we're doing here. It's for nothing more than education for us. And, now it's become kind of part of our lives and what we do. But the big thing for us is we want one person to be inspired by something we may have said. Maybe we're not going to be life changers, but we can be impact players in people's lives. And we're trying to think outside the box during this thing, because we're all experiencing something new ourselves for the first time. But anyway, as usual, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. And we do that at the beginning of the show, but tonight I want to do it at the end because it's a little more powerful.
Yeah, and tonight this was something that we've seen. We said we'd talk about things that either touched us or that we're seeing. And we've been going to lodge for a couple of weeks now here in Georgia, or several weeks,
almost.
A month.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see that some folks are really enjoying it, while others are just kind of.
Well, and a lot of our members have become reserved because they don't know which way to go, and they don't know which is the right decision, and they don't want to make the wrong decision to affect others' lives, and we get it. But also know that You cannot continue to live your life in fear. We're not saying get out there and break all the rules. What we're saying is you can't close yourself up in your home and not live anymore.
That's worse for you than just getting out there. There's fresh air outside. God's world is still beautiful.
And the people in it too are beautiful. They've forgotten their way a little bit, and it's up to us to try to figure that out. But until next time,
be excellent to each other. Good night.
That'll go into a 20-minute show.